Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Hello.
I hate Santa now.
Ho, 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 ho.
Ho, ho, ho. A very festive welcome to all of the live viewers. Been chatting about Santa Claus in the pre-show. It's got very dark at stages, but hopefully we've passed that now. Just let Arwin in. We will be doing a bit of housekeeping, though, so hopefully the flow... Hello. Hopefully the flow of Christmas will go through the housekeeping. We'll see if we can keep that momentum going. Any evidence that you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
No.
I don't think that's even possible in the math.
At least try and make
I
it
was going to say
Christmassy.
it's an impossibility.
No ho ho.
Well, you're going to, for an elevation angle, you're going to need 90 degree. You're going to need a 90 degree from where you are. So your zenith is going to have to be making a perpendicular with an absolute horizontal. And that's the only way you're going to get an elevation angle. You can't have a curved adjacent.
And
it requires a 90.
It requires a 90 at any elevation, and would only work if those lines are parallel, i.e. the ground and you at elevation, making a horizontal by whatever means you choose. Those two lines are parallel with one another, as is the sky measurement that you take at that elevation. So to do this, Earth must be flat.
Well, when ballers try to... Oh, sorry.
Go on, John, go on.
I was going to say, from what I've seen, when ballers try to rebut this, what they do is they say that they're creating a forced horizontal and forget that they claim that the horizontal is curving at R value.
Precisely.
So that they...
A forced flat Earth.
It's funny.
Very. Yeah, we force ourselves to have a flat Earth to do this. With a forced horizontal, even though we claim bendizontal and you're never going to get a straight line because it's all bent. Right? Well, we force ourselves to have horizontal in this regard. Well, take that to mean what it means. They've got to have a flat Earth first. That's right. Forced horizontal. Indeedy do. Any evidence of physical geometric sphere edge horizons formerly known as Earth curve?
I've seen a video from Wolfie where he is, without stating it, he's inadvertently claiming that, sorry, there's a cat here, inadvertently claiming that the horizon is geometric.
Oh, they're all at it at the moment. It's very amusing, because you only have to say two words. Yeah, Black Swan.
Yep.
Lovely.
Any evidence that
I remember a Como virus.
We've got a straight line to the horizon, says Akumu Virus. Black Swan.
Yeah, he was the first one that fell into that.
Yeah, the way I remember, it's hard to remember from when I was a baller. It's not been that long ago, but the way I remember it is, because Akuma virus brought it up about extrinsic and intrinsic lines. You know, the dip angle was always supposed to be two extrinsic lines to an intrinsic curve, which would be a straight line on a ball, right? So when they responded to the black swan with, oh no, it's refracted, so now that's an intrinsic line. So, you know, it just, everything just keeps falling apart from that, because that was the only positive claim they had, and everything was tied to that claimed measurement. And it's destructive if you believe you're on a ball.
Absolutely. Black swan is the basis of the destruction of the claim in the first instance. But there is no claim in the first instance when you're measuring an angle. You've got to have a flat baseline. So the claim in the first instance in this regard is flat earth. You've got to have it. You've got to have parallel lines. You've got to have 90 degrees. All of these things require flat plane. And you can't measure an angle from a curved adjacent. So when they say, okay, well, we'll just force a horizontal. No, you won't. Black swan. You're just screwed 6 ways from Sunday, no matter which way you turn. It's great. YouTube from the chat says, Nathan reminds me of Gordon Brittas sometimes. Gordon Brittas was played by Chris Barry, who also did a lot of the spitting image characters, the puppets. So not a lot of people know that, but that was what he did before Red Dwarf. So Gordon Brittas, aka the hologram on Red Dwarf known as Rimmer, and also a lot of the spitting image puppets. So he's a voiceover actor primarily, and he does impressions. So he's, you know, if you see any outtakes from Red Dwarf, you'll see him, that's Chris Barry, doing various different impressions, because that's what he did prior, i.e. spitting image. There you go, Ute. You learn something new every day. Maybe you knew that anyway. Any evidence of the R value? I tried to sneak it in earlier, but a lot of Earth curve horizon and curved adjacent talk was going on. R value? Anybody at all? Feel free to join in Discord. This is your moment.
It's utilized in the math, but, you know. Oh, you wanted proof for that?
No,
Yeah, that's difficult.
proof is the wrong word. A measurement of the presupposed spherical Earth, i.e. the R value being measured.
Well, in the video I watched earlier, put up by Wolfie a few weeks ago, because I went to his channel to watch a different video, and I never even got to that because this one got in the way. He talked about how they have formulas, how they have equations, how they have calculations, everything, but the word measurement, not once, right, did he show, right, how there's any measurement at all for this R value. He's showing how the airline industries use an R value that is purely a calculation, purely a formula, purely an equation. You know, it's the whole of the airline industry. This is why he always asks people to make a flight chart that's not based on the globe, because all of their flight stuff, even through the software, it's all calculated with adding in the R value. It's just equations, calculations, formulas, nothing.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
The actual best evidence that exists is what people used to have on their bicycles called a dynamo, where the wheel turns another wheel, which creates a magnetic field, which then in turn creates electricity and lights up a light on the back of the bike. This is before they had LEDs and stuff. This is older times. But when I say that's the best evidence, that's literally the best evidence, because what they're claiming is a reverse dynamo in the center of their globe, where electricity just happens and creates a magnetic field, as opposed to the other way around that happens every other time ever. All right.
Well, isn't it the movement of the nonsense? Well, like electricity is created when a conductor moves through a magnetic field, right? So, I don't know. It's all nonsense. They ain't got a radius value. Earth's flat. Never mind.
Yeah. They start out with electricity. That's the most hilarious part about it. The electricity just comes from nowhere, basically. They don't give any any specific source for the electricity. They come up with some nonsense. But the electricity creates the magnetic field, not magnetic field creating electricity.
Go on, Rams.
Yeah, so they're trying to justify the magnetic field, right?
Yeah, but the point that's
That's
being
the whole
made.
purpose behind the.
Yeah, but the point that they're making just this second is that the aspect of self-perpetuation, which is in the question, right? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core? Well, that self-perpetuation is describing this dynamo effect that they're questioning. But go ahead, Rams.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Oh, it was about that then.
Yeah.
No, Rams is correct, though. Rams is correct. He's stating that that's why they have to state that electricity comes first. So then they have a magnetic field. Because if they start off with a magnetic field, they don't end up with electricity with our story. So they need to start with electricity and then end up with a magnetic field. So Rams is totally correct. I think that's what Rams is saying.
I see.
Well, they're using the inner movements of masses inside the Earth as a cause for the magnetic field, right?
Right. So instead of having to explain it away as a consequence of the magnetic field, they use it as a cause.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I understand where you're going now. Any more on the self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of an R-based presupposed spherical Earth?
There's a hole they dug in Russia that goes down almost 8 miles. That would kind of go against it, considering that none of the major predictions for that hole that they were digging came true. And on top of that, it's only less than 8 miles. So how can they even make claims about 9 miles when they don't even know what's 8.5 miles down?
Cola, super deep borehole. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there, shining bright.
How are you going to measure an angle to it to assert, there's like use any kind of trigonometry or math to get a distance on an R-based Earth?
Oh, on an R-based Earth, they'd triangulate it with set distances and then insert R afterwards. In reality, you can't. It's an apparent position that you're measuring, so you can't get a height to these celestial objects.
Well, the curved adjacent's still a problem there too.
Very much so. But they would beg the question, yeah, force horizontal first, measure the angle, do the maths with an insertion of R. Just go and check out Red Rhetoric's video. Or Smokescreen Design's debunking of Red Rhetoric's address to Jeranism in this regard. So measuring the distance to, I believe, the moon. They'll triangulate off a flat plane to get the angle measurement. Then they'll do the maths with an R insertion. Just assume that Earth's got an R value. That pushes the distance out exponentially. Adding R, that is. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
How are you going to enter the scientific method with a description that is flawed and a phenomenon no one's ever observed?
You're not.
Well, you could just assume that weight is caused by gravity.
What's weight?
Relative density, disequilibrium, pressure force in a medium of air.
But you've fully summarised it without the need for gravity, and you didn't even put the word in. Useless anti-baller, anti-flat earther. You got to actually put gravity in when you describe it eloquently with relative density disequilibrium, because otherwise you're not actually inserting gravity. I've seen that happen before, actually, with anti-flat earthers, where they start explaining away what gravity is. They describe relative density, but they forget to put gravity in. Anyway.
Yeah, they switch the density quickly sometimes,
yeah, but
they don't even realize it.
They don't include it, though. Anyway, shout out to Sensual Goat, who says, I visited the anti-flat Earth market yesterday. It's a good place, and it was dreadful. Oh dear, nobody could agree on what they were selling, and nothing was where it was supposed to be. Very good, Sensual Gate. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Also, if you're watching live, please share the show.
Hey, do you think
Gravity
that
is... Sorry, go on, John.
I was going to say, with the rebellious gas particles and such missing their homes, right? And that's why they move with the Earth as it rotates. Is that also why snipers' bullets hit their targets, even though what they're seeing is refracted? It's actually the air molecules taking it to the point that they see or they thought they saw.
You'll have to break that double speak down a little bit. That was a bit too much in one chunk.
Well, they say, everything's refracted at a rate of 7/6R, so nothing's where it's supposed to be. So snipers take a shot at something they see, but there's not actually anything there. So is the gas particles changing the trajectory of the bullet to account for the refraction they see as they move with the Earth as it turns?
Wow, that's three things in one. No, no, and no. No, Earth isn't turning because we'd have Coriolis deflection for the same sniper. No, there's no account in the rarefied sphere-shaped air because there is no sphere-shaped air bending at a rate of r. And no, because what you described in the first instance would render the entire military obsolete. None of it would function. No one would hit anything ever. So no, no, and no. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? You're keen. Discord's keen. Hear that? Rumpusing, fighting each other to give us that viable hypothesis.
I can't find one.
They would have to be real sciences.
There was at least one person on mute in Discord, so
They might say the Big Bang Theory.
it's not a theory. There's still a lot of confusion. I'm almost tempted to ask QE to do a special on Ballbusters about science. Because in spite of the fact that we've just spent the last 6 episodes or so covering science, I still see people with a misapprehension about what science is and throwing science under the bus. Like science has lied to us. So they allow the reification of science into some physical entity or body of people or peer review or whatever they think science is, and then throw that which they think is science under the bus like it's lied to them. And it frustrates me greatly because that understanding, which obviously isn't there in this instance, would better the person's ability to fight the globe lie by seeing how science has been hijacked. In other words, one word substituted in this example that I'm giving of a non-person, because there isn't one specific individual I'm talking about, is to say pseudoscience rather than science. Pseudoscience has lied to us. And then when somebody questions it, well, what do you mean by that? Well, when somebody claims they've got science and they haven't put what they've claimed through the scientific method, that ultimately becomes pseudoscience by default, because it's not science. But they're claiming it to be. They're saying science. Therefore, they need an application of the scientific method with a valid hypothesis having been put through hypothesis actualization. That's an experiment with a result at the end that validates or invalidates the hypothesis. That would be to say confirms the null or confirms the alternative. Now, if that hasn't been done and it's claimed to be science, it's pseudoscience. But because it's called science so often, people will throw that under the bus and say science has lied to me because some astrophysicist has told them that there's dark matter or something like that.
Also, so many people believe the word science to basically mean to study, you know? colloquial definition. Most people believe that that is the only definition, and that this scientific method that we talk about is is our own idea.
It's an etymological fallacy. So to say that science means what the etymology of science means, scientia, however you say it, that is an etymological error, because it doesn't mean the same as the etymology. That's just where it's derived from. Now, when talking in current contexts about science, that's physics. That's the study of the physical and natural world. So science is a method. Now that method isn't peer review, it isn't consensus, it isn't man in white coat telling you what he knows. It's a method that has an empirical outcome. It always was. That's what it is. And to claim that, well, to acquire knowledge is science, no, it isn't. That's an etymological fallacy.
I would be interested.
Go on.
I was just going to say I would be interested.
Go on, John. I heard you
Yeah, I was
first,
just.
then Brian.
I was going to say I would just be interested to hear any other method that would give an empirical outcome, and if there is one, it would be great if they would just bring this, new method out so that we could, like put it to the test. Like they're claiming there's an infinite number of them or whatever. So it's got to be easy. All they got to do is produce one that's empirical. And then we could judge that one on its merits.
Be restricted to empiricism?
Yeah, that dusty old empiricism. Pah. No, we've evolved beyond that, says M. Scott Veitch.
But no, what I'm saying is if there is another method to reach an empirical outcome, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It would just have to, logically stand as such.
Right.
You couldn't use inference or not inference. You couldn't use deduction or induction. You'd have to, invent a new form of reasoning.
That is what they do. They justify inductive reasoning and call it science when it isn't. So, yeah, you just have to know what science is to spot what it isn't. And once you know what it isn't and people start claiming it, you can call them out on it and say, well, what was the phenomena being studied? What was the presumed cause of the phenomena you were studying? What was the experiment that was done to validate that as the cause and invalidate the null? What was done? And they won't have anything, because half the time they don't themselves know what they're claiming. But at a base level, somewhere deep down in their mind, they know that science is empirical because we were all taught it as such. That's why the magic trick works. If we weren't taught that science is an empirical method of establishing cause, by way of the scientific method at an early age, which we all were, when they say science says, you wouldn't think, oh, well, that means it's proven then. The magic trick wouldn't work unless we knew it was empirical, and we do. We were taught it at school, all of us in the Western world. Anybody with a heliocentric Western worldview was taught at school the empirical method of science. That's how the magic trick works. It wouldn't if you weren't. Jangle those keys through me, Neil. It's just perfect.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know why? Because I got disconnected. And then when I reconnect, I got to remember to go on mute.
That's a lovely story. Thank you. Can you regale us with it again?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I
if
just gotta
science
make an
was only
excuse.
based on observation, then yeah, sure, then they would be semi-right. But it's not only based on observation, so they are completely wrong.
Right. That's got a name as well.
Well, that's why they.
That's a fallacy too. Go on. Sorry.
I pointed out to someone recently.
They're right. They're wrong.
There's a guy who had a video, and he was trying to give he was trying to explain why objects appear to fall due to relativity, Einstein's relativity. And he said, look, he gave the disclaimer, look, that when he got to the part of him giving his description, that people could go against it, like it, dislike it. He said, this is just his way of explaining it, right? And he went through a whole thing of how he describes how space-time acts and mass, these masses, whatever they are warping space-time. And there was a lot of stuff went on in that. And not to be nasty to him, because he was just a baller. He wasn't a flat out, or he never would have come across us. I said, look, I said, you put a lot of work into this, and he did. So I said, I'm not going to attack you on every point in it, but I will point out one thing, and that is helium balloon debunks everything you're saying there, because there is no Earth rising up to the helium balloon. There is also no space-time effects, taking place, acting on this helium balloon. So the whole lot is out the window. Now, he never gave me a reply, because how do you reply to that? Like, not only does a helium balloon debunk the previous claimed force of gravity, but it debunks Einstein's relativity. It's such a simple, it's so obvious, but they get lost in mathematics and mathematical descriptions, forgetting that all they have is a description. It's just different descriptions. And they're not describing it correctly, so it's easily torn apart by helium balloons.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
That would
Before
involve
you can assert
airplanes.
it.
I'm going to say that would involve airplanes having shorter flight routes when they're flying east to west.
Before you can assert any kind of axial rotation or anything like that, you would probably need a radius value. Not probably, you would definitely need a radius value to assert a spin.
Covered radius. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
That's just a hard no right there now.
Is there any other way to contain gas?
Exactly, Rams.
It's an antecedent consequent relationship. Is that it? Did I cover everything? Did I miss any?
I don't think so.
Woohoo! I think that concludes the housekeeping. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. So now we can get back to talking about Santa Claus and how right or wrong it is to indoctrinate our children with the fun-loving fat man that is known as Santa. I'll go first. See, I think it's perfectly acceptable so long as you don't leave the kid with any impression that there is actually a Santa and it's not just pretend. So, both of my kids like to imagine that Santa is real, but they're under no misapprehensions about the fact that they are imagining Santa to be real, and that's cool because it means we can go and see Santa, and that's perfectly good. That's how the conversation started last time anyway. Hopefully it'll work this time.
I don't know if...
Go on, John.
Come on, Brian.
I'm just saying I'd rather talk about other things, not Santa.
Well, I was going to link it back into the ISS, which about this time of year, certainly in years gone by, the International Space Station has been labelled as being worthy of watching simply because it's claimed to be Santa Claus. So the children are beckoned outdoors to watch the light in the sky traverse their field of view under the misapprehension that it's Santa Claus. Now, I vaguely remember a piece in a cartoon, I think it was Family Guy or something similar, and he's watching Oprah or something similar, and there's a guy and a woman on stage sat across from each other on the big chairs like they are, and the guy confesses to the woman that actually he's not a man at all, he's a woman, and he pulls off this face mask and he's a woman, and the woman's like, oh my God, and he goes, well, actually I've got another confession, I'm not actually a woman at all, I'm a horse. And pulls off the mask and it's a horse underneath, and the woman's like, oh my God, I can't quite believe it, and she says, well, actually I've got another confession, I'm not really a horse at all, I'm a broom. and pulls off the horse mask, and suddenly the person turns into a broom, right? And the woman's shocked and amazed. You think, well, it's a similar deal when you're telling the kids that the ISS is Santa and his sleigh, right? So if you're telling them a lie about a light in the sky being Santa, and then eventually you tell them a different lie, that it's a piece of tin flying through a sky vacuum, you know, what's the next lie that they'll tell you about it when you find out that's a lie? There you go. That's
Oh my god,
motivation.
you a broomstick?
Let's not focus on the Family Guy comparison, more on the fact that there's a mask pulled off when you're about 8 years old, that the ISS isn't Santa bringing you presents. It's actually a tin can, honest. I know we lied before, but now we're telling the truth.
Well, isn't that like masking absurdity with absurdity?
Yes, it is like masking absurdity with absurdity. Precisely my point. It also shows you what happens when you deal with liars. So the TV tells you as a kid, go outside, you'll see Santa going across the sky. He's going across the sky, and he's going across it in and out because it's a sphere. Yeah, because they'll be telling you that at that age, so I'm more than happy to incorporate that into the lie at this stage. But then you find out later on, that was a complete lie. So you go, well, what is that light in the sky then, person who told me it was Santa on the news? Well, it's this tin can we've launched. Honest. So once you find out that you're dealing with a liar, in my opinion, there's only one way to deal with that type of person. That's you turn your back on them. Yeah, because all they will give you is more lies.
Were you told that Santa was real when you were a kid, Nathan?
I can't really remember. I'd have to ask my folks what they told me.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't. I was different because I was in a Christian church environment, and since I got memories, we got gift for Christmas, but there was no Santa. We were told the stories like, oh, everybody celebrates, and they say like this fat man with a red dress and a white beard, they come at the chimney. The whole story, they say, but that's a story. What we celebrate, what we give you gifts, is because it's a special day, because Jesus was born, even though it was a different day. But as a kids, we were explained that way. He said, like, so celebrate, so don't. The other kids, they don't know that Santa is not real. They just told me. So I think that's on the parents. Now, the news and most of America and the tradition and cultural, yeah, all the kids are told that Santa is real, and I think I call bullshit. They should have done like I knew since I was a kid. It's bullshit, but we still celebrate it just kind of to be part of the group. That was good with me.
Should be easy. I mean, from what I understand about American culture, there's not the same credence lent to the Easter Bunny, for example. So why can't people just treat Santa the same as the Easter Bunny? No one's growing up to 10 years old still believing that the Easter Bunny is real, unless I'm very much mistaken. Or leprechauns, or any other, unicorns, whatever. Anything else that's fanciful or fantastical, you kind of get an idea as you grow up that it's not real. Because at some stage, someone will just tell you. Well, obviously that's just make-believe. And there's a kind of, must be, I don't know where it is for my kids because they're nothing but fantasy at the moment, but there must be a line where you start to distinguish what's real and what isn't. But, you're told by the news or by Big Daddy government in this regard with Santa to do the complete opposite, to just perpetually lie to them. Don't tell them it's not real. Don't tell them to go along with the fantasy and enjoy the fantasy for what it is. Actually tell them it's real. And, it's just a masking of an absurd notion when it comes to the ISS, that this tin can's floating around in a sky vacuum in a presupposed orbital motion. But actually it's Santa.
I mean, physically, there's something up there. Is there people in it? Who knows? How high it is, how fast it goes? I don't know. It adds up to the observations and the transits on the moon. But it can be recorded, it can be documented. So it's something up there. What it is, that's what we don't know.
All you've got to go on is their story about it. And for me, it's it's much easier cognitively because it's no different to any other light in the sky. So, for instance, David Icke talks about the moon being a container for entities to live in, like a space orbiting ship almost, right? Now, when David Icke describes that, most people who are on the outside of David Icke and don't take him seriously will just snigger. What an absurd notion. But all he's doing is the exact same thing that NASA do with the ISS. The fact that they've got a whole backstory to go along with it is irrelevant. It's just another light in the sky. Now, their elaborate backstory for that particular light in the sky, I think, is necessary because that particular light in the sky doesn't match any of the other motions. So you've got to give it a backstory, because otherwise people would start asking questions. So hence it's got a backstory. It doesn't surprise me, but so have all the other lights. Equally as absurd.
But this light in the sky was start being seen in the mid 80s, late 80s, when it started getting launched up there. That's when that light in the sky started to be observed, when it started getting launched up the space. So yeah, I'm going to have a hot mic for a few minutes.
I don't know if that's true. So, some of the symbology from the Masonic lodges shows that they've got that shape, the basic shape of the ISS, on their hats. And you're like, what is it with this weird double cross with extra edges on it that they've got on their hats? Why would they have that? Now, I don't know about Masonic Freemasonry, but I know when I see an image, I'm like, that reminds me of the ISS. Now, for all I know, consumer-level optics improved in the 80s to the point where people could start seeing this stuff where they couldn't before. And then it needs a justification. Whereas up until then, maybe they're studying it, but no one's aware of it. No one's looking at it and tracking it. So, who cares? Now, I've said this before. Back in the day, my folks lived in a part of the country that had the least light pollution in the whole country. So they had a hot tub, you could turn all the lights off and just watch the sky. And over time, your eyes would adjust and you'd see more and more and more. It would seem deeper and deeper, like you were looking, I'm going to use these words, deeper into space. Yeah? That's how it is perceived as your light levels are adjusted for in your eyeballs over time, as you relax. But also, lots of stuff's flying around up there, moving around in random directions, changing directions. All sorts of crazy stuff is going on. Now, I remember Mark Sargent several years ago describing exactly this, but with IR goggles. Yeah? So he puts on the night vision stuff with a decent zoom, looks up at the sky and starts describing what I had seen with my naked eye, but in an area of very, very, very low light pollution. So no street lights for miles and miles and miles around, no towns for miles around, just the middle of nowhere. If it was no moon, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, that's how dark it was. But that meant that you got an exceptionally good view of the night sky. And as I say, all sorts of stuff's going on up there. But most people just don't notice. And if they do, they don't care. They don't give it a second thought. They might go, I wonder what that is, and then get on with their day. Right? Now, for the ISS, it's a different story. It's fairly intense light, and it's cyclical and regular. Well, that's the kind of thing that people will definitely notice after a time, and they'll start asking questions if there isn't a pre-packaged explanation. Most of heliocentrism is only designed so we haven't got any questions to ask anymore. It's all been answered already. Here's a nice pre-packaged answer for you in the heliocentric model. It's very eloquent, pretty much works. On you go with your day. Don't ask questions. Well, the same is said for the ISS, in my opinion. It's just another light in the sky, but if you haven't got a prerequisite understanding that you've got a heliocentric world and orbital motion, if you haven't got that, it's suddenly not a problem. It's just an unexplained light in the sky, like lots of other lights in the sky that I could say are unexplained in terms of what I've seen them do.
Is there a light? Can light have a shape like the ISS does?
That light has got a shape.
Light in the sky.
Well, it has, hasn't it? If you've seen reasonably good imagery of it, you can see that it's got a kind of discernible shape. I'll tell you an interesting story. Anthony Riley took a picture, or had a picture, or acquired a picture of the ISS, and with its vague shape, and said there's no way anyone can match up this vague shape to what the ISS actually is. So put it to Red's rhetoric, and that's precisely what he did. He said, at this angle, this is what the ISS would be doing to give you that kind of blurred image. And it matched. You're like, yeah. When he told me, I was like, yeah, shocking. Of course, that's the whole point. It's to justify the light. So not matching would be the worst possible scenario. So they've got to have it matching. But, you know, like I say, that vague blur of a light to Anthony was like, oh, well, that'll never match up with what the ISS is claimed to look like. Well, yeah, it will. But does that make it the tin can they claim the ISS is? No. Absolutely not. Why? Well, because it's claimed to be orbiting. I can debunk that. It's claimed to be in a sky vacuum. I can debunk that. So it isn't orbiting in a sky vacuum. That's what they claim the tin can that the ISS is. So it isn't. Simple.
That's correct, Nathan.
But he didn't even try. Last point. He didn't even try to match, to tweak and manipulate his zoom in and focal length and none of that to get the image to look like what we are told the ISS is, because lots of random people take footage and videos, not being photographers and experts. They just take a quick video, zoom in, and oh, there it is, the ISS, and it looks like we are told it looks.
And
you don't have to tweak it to make it look like the ISS.
That's fine if you ignore what I've just said, which is to say what we are told is it's got a certain shape that you're saying matches. We're also told it has orbital motion and is in a sky vacuum. So no. What they say it is isn't what it is.
Yeah, he missed all that, Nathan.
Well, in astrology and astronomy, but astrology more so, because it's, in my opinion, more precise than astronomy, there is things that turn up in the sky every 70, 120 years, all this kind of stuff. There's things that just turn up, they're on cycles. And they could be there for a while and then they disappear. There's all kinds of mad stuff in astrology. So if you know astrology well enough, you will know that there's things that turn up in the sky that may not have been seen in the sky for 60 years. So I don't know what the hell the thing is. I've personally not seen it. I know other people have seen it. I've personally not seen it. But I don't know what the rest of the lights are either.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's just a light. It's exactly as you'd expect it to be. So there's nothing special about seeing it, in my opinion. It's comparable to any other light in the sky that has a really weird shape if you zoom in on it. So do a lot of the stars. And I'm not talking about people who don't know how to operate their cameras either.
Well, even if it was a man-made thing, like even if we allow that question to ride, it's still not orbiting without a radius value to Earth.
Exactly.
And that has been debunked.
Exactly.
So it could be man-made. Who cares? It's not what they say it is.
Exactly. But you could, you can, after you find out that it's not Santa Claus on his sleigh, you can go back to the exact same people who lied about it and ask them what it is. Now, they're either going to give you the same ignorance, deception, forced or otherwise, or outright lies. If it's the source, it'll be an outright lie. There, my opinion. Once you find out that these people are lying about certain things, don't ask them anymore. They don't know, otherwise they'd tell you. Or if they do know and they're not telling you, they're never going to. And they've had to, or they've saw fit to, lie for whatever reasons that they find fit. They're never going to tell you those either. Probably not even under duress. So, why bother appealing to them? All right, well, I know it's not in a sky vacuum, so what is it? Go on, spill the beans. You know what they'll give you? They'll give you another lie. If you're appealing to them, they know you've already lost because you're already appealing to them.
Isn't there the moment where we, the people interested in the topic, need to jump in and say, all right, I'm not going to believe anything that they tell me. They tell me it's this high, this fast, and there's people in it. I say it's not because of the R value and the non-vacuum of space. Then we have to figure out what it is. Or should we just sweep it under the rug and just say, just a light in the sky, I don't care, let's move on to the next topic.
You can
we be more interested in trying to figure out what it is then?
Well, you can, but that's, for me, part of the relinquished excitement that you gave up when you move sides. So not knowing what it means, you have that opportunity to ponder that, don't you? Now, refutation does not require a replacement. So to refute that it's in a sky vacuum doesn't mean I've got to explain what it is. That's not required. But you can then ponder
But that's
it.
the fun on it, trying to
That's-
figure it out and
That's-
come up with
exactly.
ideas on what it is.
But you can only do that if you understand implicitly that it isn't what they're telling you. Because if it is, then you don't need to ponder it, do you? But if it isn't, then you can, if you choose to, ponder that question. A reason I highlight that is because I say ponder that question if you choose to, as opposed to satisfy the demand of an opponent who says, well, you must tell me what it is. No, I don't have to do that. I can just debunk what you think it is and then walk away laughing. And knowing that it's joyful to say, I don't know what it is, but I might be the one to find out. How exciting.
Have you
The
come up with anybody
accepting of-
trying to find out what it is? Or just saying, I know that that is not, and I'm going to laugh at you? Are we finding people that tell us then what it is? Or you're just in the first step of denying what it is and moving on?
Well,
and laugh?
I'm saying it could
Well,
be down to
Jose.
you to take the excitement for yourself, to own that excitement personally, and endeavour yourself to find out. But your question is, so I don't just find the next person to appeal to who's going to tell me what it is? No. That's obviously that you haven't recognised the potential excitement that is offered by this subject upon realising you've been lied to, which is that you can embrace that excitement personally, but you following one of the other two routes, which is appealing to the original liar or finding a new guru to tell you what it is. Neither of those seem like very favourable paths to me, but I'm not you. You go look for your guru to tell you what the ISS is now. I'm sure you'll find one.
If I made a claim, Jose, about what the ISS is, right, how do I support that claim? Like, the best I can do is refute the mainstream claims. At present, there's nothing else I can do. What can you do? What claim can you make about the ISS and support it at present? You can't. You end up looking at more
I
foolish
can-
than.
Oh.
Come on.
Well, I can tell you what I learned via Googling around in the NASA website and all that. I can find hundreds of videos, hundreds of pictures, and a lot of people talking about it. That's the evidence I can find.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell you what it is. That tells you what they say it is.
No,
But that
yeah.
doesn't allow you to
it's
make a
true.
claim about it yourself. I'll put it
But
this
you
way,
asked me a
right?
question. I answered honestly. What evidence can I give you? Well, the hundreds of hours and pictures and launches that we can see the things launching. We don't know where to go, but that's evidence. At least part of the
But
evidence.
Well, we
that
know
is not
that.
connected to the ISS.
God.
That's connected
Well,
to
it's
the
just circle
story.
jerk. Hold on, Brian. All you're doing is just circling
maybe-
back to the beginning of the discussion, Jose. So you're saying I can present you evidence of the photos from space, but we've covered that. Once we know one aspect is a total lie in violation of natural law in this instance, you don't need to keep going and saying, yeah, but I've got a picture of them launching to Narnia. I've got video footage of them going through the wardrobe to Narnia. Once you know that Narnia is not real, you don't need to concern yourself with how the wardrobe functions or the videography of them going through the wardrobe anymore. You don't need to do that. Now, you can keep appealing to it, but that would mean you ignored the fact that we've explained calmly that we don't do that and concern ourselves with the video footage and scroll through NASA stuff. I don't look or concern myself with anything from NASA. I know they're liars, so I don't associate with them. I certainly don't proactively go after their information because they're claiming stuff's taking place in a sky vacuum. That's the end. I don't need anything else.
I have an important question.
Jose,
Hold on one
I'll
second,
go after
Brian.
you. I'll go after.
Jose, when are you going to get your channel up and running so we don't got to hear this nonsense no more?
Well, that's a good point. So subscribe to Jose JG Boom, who unfairly had his channel taken off him, as much as is our opponent in this discussion. He doesn't deserve to not have a channel that's monetizable, and he's at under 1,000 views. So go and subscribe, if nothing else, to get him up to 1,000 so he can at least monetize his channel again. Seems crap, man. Ugh, I'd hate to be in your shoes, man. And I hope, if I'm ever in your shoes, there's someone out there like me that's prepared to put their neck out and go and subscribe to him just so he can monetize his channel again. I hope people do the same for me. If it ever happens to me, Jose, I really hope I get the same as you're getting from me. I hope someone pays it forward.
And I am here now because this being a new account and it's kind of a clean slate for me. And I've kind of told you, like, hey, it's a clean slate. My previous accounts were banned and I couldn't join and none of that shit. But that's page chapter moved. We're in a new chapter. So this is, I keep being me, trolling responsibly and doing my thing. But I'll try to lower down a couple notches, try to keep it in the down low so I can participate every once in a while.
No,
like
not
I've
at
been
all.
doing the
You
past
be you,
weeks,
man. Don't change. You won't. Nobody does. But I appreciate the sentiment. But no, you be you.
I'd like to say
I'm just
that-
trying to be a little more mellow because last time I got myself banned. Like I pushed it a little too far.
No.
So I'm trying to control
That's not what got you
myself.
banned. What you got banned for was what I shouted at Arwin for in the chat yesterday, which is whoring on my damn corner, right? That will get you banned. Now, me at the moment, obviously, I'm proactively promoting you. So, if one of the mods happened to put your channel link for people to go to your channel, I wouldn't object. But it's a very different story if somebody just out of the blue comes out and starts promoting themselves, their channel, and e-begging potentially on my corner.
I tried to take your audience away because I was doing the show at the same time than you, and I was trying to take your audience away now. So that's fair. It was a fair ban. I'll take it like a man.
What you were doing, right? Because it was early days when you started doing that, right? And I get it because suddenly I become your competitor. And you've got to try and take a piece of market share that didn't exist until I developed it as an area of YouTube. Now, that I understand. I know that works to my advantage, right? If anybody thinks, why is he's so selfless. No. There is certainly some selfishness involved in me promoting Jose. I'll give the chip shop analogy another time. But me promoting Jose as a competitor, he has a similar show to me, does actually help promote my show and grow my show. As strange as that may sound, I'll explain it another time. But that is the reality. Whereas if you're the little guy, which Jose was at the start 2-3 years ago, then you've got to, I say it in a metaphorical way, beg, borrow and steal your way to some sort of success. Now, if that means standing on some of the hoes' corner, in this case me, and calling out for tricks, then that's what you got to do. And Jose did it. But it got him banned. So that's just how it is. In other words, if you're doing that as the metaphorical equivalent of the prostitution scenario I'm giving, you get your eyes clawed out. Right? Anyway.
That's fair, yeah. Fair analogy.
Anyway, yeah, subscribe to Jose JG Boom. So it'd be nice to see you getting to 1,000 subscribers again, because despite the fact you had to beg, borrow and steal your way up there in the first place, you did actually do it, and it takes a lot of effort to do that, as much as some of it
There was a point we were neck to neck. I mean, I was having a really big and great audience, and the people that used to come to your channel back in the day, they started going to my channel, and then we also had Riley and, the people that was participants here, Riley and Arwin. We had a big group. It was really fun. Then it started changing around, but hey, whatever, man. Fresh start, as I say. I've just got a place to go in and have fun and have opposite views so we can have a laugh, with each other. It's all good.
Sure, they get executed here and then resurrect themselves on your show.
Hey, can I make an appeal?
Hey, Nathan, last point. Did you see the little clip that I uploaded from you? You uploaded the Jose, me versus you, and it was a little clip. And I grabbed that, downloaded it, and I edited, whittled it down, everything that made sense. And I put a lot of key phrases and you saying things that doesn't make sense. I just edited in a fun way. Everybody was having a laugh. I did that with Arwin and a few people. I just got skills to edit videos out and take the explanations and things that make sense,
people.
and just put a bunch of ramble words together. It's funny, man. It's funny.
So what Jose's saying is, he's realised that he's got to put quality content out, and it takes a fair bit of effort to actually chop the stuff up, regardless of Neil saying you're misrepresenting what you said. Well, no, he's putting his spin on what he wants it to say, which is what editing is. That's what it is. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate it. I put a comment on it. I was like, you'll get to 1,000 eventually or something. I'm sure I commented on that video. I recognise the effort you're putting in, Jose. I realise what you're doing. I know what an effort it is.
Take your YouTube hat off.
Say again. John's trying to get a word in. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, just to make an appeal as a human being, if the person that did that to Jose is listening right now, just send me the password to his Gmail and I'll give it back to him. What you've done is wrong. And if you're not You don't have to be a bad person. You can send me his information and I'll give it back to him. What you done was wrong.
They're not even hearing you, bro.
On some level,
Yeah,
they
if
might be.
anybody
You
got
never
access
know.
to my account, download my family pictures and video pictures of my dogs, my parents, my uncles, and my aunts that already passed away, and there's a lot of good memories. If anybody got access to my family information, to my family pictures, please make it or get to me somehow. That's all I ask.
Right, stop. No. What you're dealing with when you're dealing with people who do this, that take accounts from people on YouTube, you're dealing with the most unscrupulous people alive. Now, if they
Exactly.
sense some weakness or some attachment to your images, do you think they will? Let's have a little quiz. Dun, 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 dun.
Nah,
Will they,
You're dealing with scum.
A, be really kind and give it you back with a little bunch of flowers? That's option A, bunch of flowers and all that you want given back to you, no questions asked. Or B, try and extort money from you for the thing that you hold with value. Which do you think it'll be, Jose?
There's a C, Nathan.
What's the
No,
C?
I
Hold
can-
on, there's a
I-
worse one. I can sense it coming.
Yeah, the C
Well, that's
is
why I
what
made
really
the appeal.
happened. Hang on,
That's why I
sorry,
made the
John,
appeal.
I'm sorry. I'm speaking now. Sorry now. C, right? Completely ignore the whole lot because they're doing it all day, every day. It means nothing to them what personal stuff is on anyone's Gmail account.
Yeah, I'd
Can
go
I
with
speak
C.
from
In reality, I'd go with
experience?
C. But
Can I
worst
speak
case
from
scenario, B. So most likely couldn't give a crap. They've done it because they couldn't care less about your Gmail or they wouldn't have done it in the first place and they'll ignore any appeals to them. But if worst case scenario, they see an opening and an opportunity, they'll extort you more. The reason I know this is from watching scam shows where they show what these scammers do. And the most valuable list to the scammers are the people that have already been scammed because they know they're susceptible to getting scammed.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. What I wanted to say was that happened to me. I had to buy my own cell phone back because it had pictures on it. So yeah, that happened.
Damn, they
Yeah,
got you
but-
good.
If anyone contacts
Who
you,
laughed?
always
Who was
telling
that?
you-
Bastard. Who was that?
I'm sorry, that
laughed?
was me, Jose, because you had to buy your own phone to get your.
See, some people
pictures
never
back up.
change.
So, if anyone contacts you, Jose, telling you that they have your personal pictures and stuff and they're willing to sell it back to you, you can be sure they do not have that. They're looking to get money out of you. They don't have those things. The people who do these things wouldn't even waste their time with that. No offense to your personal stuff, but to them, that's just another day at the office.
Not only,
Right. Yeah, I
not
didn't
only
delete it.
that, the
They
guy,
deleted the whole account.
Agreed. Deal with
the
it. Move
guy
on.
asked me for an extra 20. I gave him $200 to the phone, and he said, "Yo, you got to at least give me $20 for the gas to come and meet you here." And I really should have showed up with a cop. That's what I should have done. Had
Lovely.
the cop hiding in the bushes. Because he was the one that stole it. I know it. And a month later, because he couldn't sell it, because how you going to sell an iPhone? You can't. It's locked down.
I guess
So he
I
had to
guess he
sell
was
it back
bigger
to the
than
guy
you,
stole it
or
from.
he had a gun or something, right? He was bigger than you, bro. I'll take that shit back to me.
Okay,
I
just
beat
to-
his ass before
No, I
leave.
was sleeping in the car.
Just to link this
He
back.
took it right out.
Once somebody knows that you can be scammed and you are susceptible to being lied to, even if you figure out the lie, they will just carry on that exact same pattern. We're talking about the people who run the world and they have zero empathy. By comparison, like the scammers, they don't care. They will literally wipe out your grandma's entire life savings without a second thought. You think they care about photos? I think not. Either way, that's what people with no empathy are like. That's what having no empathy means. They can't put themselves in your position, devastated at the loss of your photos. They can't relate to that. That's what having no empathy is. And that's who runs the world. And they're no different. They just lie to your face.
The reason
Go, John, go.
The reason I made the appeal is so that Jose wouldn't have to open himself up to that. And, you know, there's still people. And if there is the off chance that there's a decent bone in their body, I think that, you know, just to give it back. it should be an option for them and for him. That's the only reason I said it. Because it's Christmas.
Fair enough, I
people are
understand.
bank-
Oh yeah, they care about that. I'm sure they do.
These people are originally bankrolled by large criminal gangs, the likes of the Yakuza, the Russians, blah, blah, blah. And these particular gangs would actually, when they used to do stuff in the 3D world, let's just say, would give you back what you're looking for if you were looking for it. There's a chance you may here and there get that kind of stuff, personal stuff back. But when you're dealing with these other people who are bankrolled by these criminal gangs, they don't question these people what they do. All these people have to do is be online, steal stuff, rob things. That's all they need to do. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're nerds who don't have any care or empathy for anyone or anything, right? They do what they do. They're professionals at what they do. They don't care what you lose. It means nothing to them. They're doing their job. And that's all that matters.
So, happy Christmas on that note. I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
I want to